Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 112.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards, and I'm joined today by my good friend and colleague, Dr. Cracio Jug. And today we're doing our first video version of the Life by Design for Chiropractors podcast. So you may find this episode somewhere streaming on the interwebs, whatever platform you tend to focus on. You'll probably see us there, and let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoy seeing our faces or not. Either way, I'm open to the feedback regardless. Today's episode, we get into the philosophical side of things, and it was really prompted from questions that I was getting, not just by other chiropractors, but even my patients talking about, why do certain people do certain things? And so we went back deep into the philosophy, and we talked about a couple of very important points that I think are valuable for chiropractors. Number one, that chiropractic is not a philosophy, and number two, that chiropractic is not for sick people, it's for people. I think you're going to enjoy today's episode. In fact, I know you will. So dig into that. Let us know what you think of the video version if you do catch that. And of course, if you haven't joined the Life by Design Lite group yet, then you're going to want to check that out. We'll put the link in the show notes. It's well worth the effort, and the feedback has been tremendous so far, and we're moving forward with a lot of great docs in that group, and they're already starting to grow. So I'm excited and enjoy today's episode of Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. Cracio, welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
Happy to be here. What can I say?
Yeah, what can I say? Hey, for those people who are checking this out on whatever video feed they're getting, trying something new, we're just continuing to grow and develop. How can we get this message? And this applies to your practices as well, right? How do you get this message to more and more people? And where this got sparked recently was I have a local podcast. I know Cracio does as well. We have a local podcast to our markets, and I popped it up on Instagram TV after I had published it. And I couldn't believe the number of views that I got there. And, people love watching video. And I think that in your local market, especially, it's an opportunity for people to see you, right? And to see your face and to put a face to the name as well. So when they do start seeing, let's say, ads or videos online that you're doing, another opportunity for them to make the connection between the two.
Well, we're risking it because I don't know, looking at us right now, I would say we have faces for radio. What do you say?
Well, yeah, I'm in my kids' playroom here at the Life by Design Center. Hair. Yeah, so if you see the toys above me here, yeah, those aren't my toys. Although I did draw the pictures, though. So, that's the level of my artistic ability.
Me too.
Yeah. So today I'm excited because, we get a lot of feedback, not just from our existing clients, from people listening to the podcast. And then I'm a part of different chiropractic groups, as are you, Cracio. And I was looking around and I was reading some of the posts. And I think for myself too, there was a moment where, you have this what the heck moment, why are people doing this or why are people doing that? And even before all of the COVID type stuff, we'd ask that question, why don't they get it? Why aren't people staying? Why aren't they bringing people? Why aren't they referring? And, we have an answer to that question and it's the same answer. And so, I know a lot of people right now, I listen and I see a lot of anger and chiropractors being ticked off. Why are they doing that? And I don't want to say that I don't agree. I mean, I don't agree with what a lot of people are choosing to do, but you also need to understand why they're doing it. And so I think it can bring some empathy and put you in a better position to actually figure out what game plan you have and how you're going to make a change in your community and how you're going to get people to actually do different things and make a different choice. And it comes down to the fact that people act in accordance with their philosophy, whether that philosophy is consciously created, whether it's something that just got plugged and played. The fact is they're doing what they think is right. And if they weren't doing that, then they would actually be in a massive contradiction, and that would be a huge problem.
Yep. What do you, so far so good. You check that.
So Cracio, then, I was looking back and we have these two programs that we run, one Life by Design Lite and one Life by Design Elite, and a retention-based practice inside of that. And we were just creating this whole infrastructure recently, and I added a couple of videos and I had watched them, and it was a video of my presentation in New Zealand at Lyceum in 2012. You can think back that far when you, myself, and Dana went to New Zealand. And still to this day, I'd consider it the best presentation I'd ever done. And the reason I bring it up is because a lot of the concepts that I talked about there that you and I worked on putting together, they're extremely relevant today. And there's nothing I said that isn't true. There's nothing I said that I would even have changed to this point. I think the place I want to start is this challenging idea, I think, for a lot of people is that chiropractic is not a philosophy. Right? People act in accordance to their philosophy, and chiropractors talk about chiropractic philosophy, and we need to get people to live the chiropractic lifestyle and, live the chiropractic philosophy. I think that's one of the first contradictions for most chiropractors is that chiropractic itself is not a philosophy.
Yeah. So, if I'm looking at my notes here, look, the definition of a philosophy is the science that studies the fundamental aspects of the nature of existence. Right? Chiropractic does not do that. Right? Chiropractic has principles, right? Sure. It's based, but it doesn't even begin to study those things. And one of the ways that you can see that chiropractic is not a philosophy is because when you look in the profession of chiropractic, there is tremendous variance in how people choose to practice,
right?
The actual clinical aspects of chiropractic. Right. So there's therapy on one end of it, and then there's some really, really weird out there stuff on the other end to it. Right. So, to call it that, it's inaccurate and it's misleading, and it's harmful to people who are trying to figure this out in the meantime.
Well, and to make an important note, there is a philosophy of chiropractic, right? Just like a philosophy of law, just like a philosophy of medicine, just like a philosophy of other professions. And it allows us to have an application of those principles to things like the spine, the nervous system, subluxation, the correction. We have a philosophy of our profession, a professional philosophy, if you will. But to really challenge this and take it to the extreme, and I think this was your example many years ago, what's the chiropractic philosophy on abortion, right? What's the chiropractic philosophy on, essentially anything? I know this is an extreme example, but there isn't one because chiropractic is not a philosophy.
Yes. So, I think the confusion comes again. We're living in 2020. There's a lot of inconsistency. You brought up people's philosophies, right? And right. How they act. I think a lot of the biggest problem for a lot of people is because they haven't thought through their philosophy. Clearly, There's a lot of not contradictions, but there's a lot of unclarity, right? Yeah. So to say something like it's unclear, that there's a philosophy of chiropractic, what you're saying is there's certain principles, right, that we accept, and then our practice of chiropractic is based on these principles.
Yeah. Now we could, if somebody wanted to go down this path, and we often talk about being fans of Ayn Rand, she set out to create a philosophy. Well, she did. And she did. And so, obviously there's amazing amounts of work that are incorporated in that. Technically, you could use certain principles and tenets and constructs to start to create a philosophy that chiropractic fell into, right? That the application of chiropractic. So chiropractic could be, for example, a part of the health application within a philosophy. I know
well, that's what people have done, right? That's exactly what has happened, right?
Well, we've thrown around the idea of ADIO, and it's not a well-constructed philosophy. I would say it's much closer to a philosophy than chiropractic. At least, this idea of, the body being a self-regulating organism. And again, that can then apply beyond into, say, nature or, all living things. And you can start to see how that could apply to other areas.
Well, that's what's already happened. That's what the Palmers did, right? Like the Palmers started with, universal and innate intelligence, which are much, whether I agree or disagree, I think is a conversation for another day, but those are much broader applications from which they deduced, right, the practice of chiropractic.
That's right.
Right. So like the practice of chiropractic, if I don't have it memorized by any means, but I don't think like the practice of chiropractic comes like until like principle like 20.
Right.
Right. So we have all these things on top of that. So yeah, of course.
Well, and I think therein lies the challenge in our communities to make it real and tangible for, the docs listening in and anybody who's paying attention here is that if you truly want to get people to do more of what you want them to do and do things that more align with, what you think they should do, telling them what to do is not the best way to have that happen. We've been saying for a long time, to create a movement within your community, you've got to affect the way people think. In fact, you've got to get them to think first, and then, get them going through the thought process. It's one of the reasons Think by Design is really a core part of our curriculum within all of our offices. Teaching Think by Design is one of the most favorite things I get to do in practice, because I know for a percentage, and it may be a small percentage of people, it's setting them off on a different path. And if you look at the people in your practice who choose to do what you are suggesting they do, a lot of times they've made philosophical changes, whether they know it or not. And it's not just the fact that they're coming to your practice to be subluxation free.
Well, this is always, sorry to interrupt you, but this is always my favorite part of training camp, right? This is when you start talking about, you need a core curriculum in your practice, right? Like, what are the things that you want to start teaching these people in order to, have them not just become great patients? I think that's that's narrow-minded, but to become healthier and better human beings,
sure.
Right?
Yeah. Well, again, we've been saying this forever, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation. The success, any success that I've been able to see in our community, Life by Design, whether it be when I was in London with you guys or here in Blenheim, it's always been around creating a movement about thinking differently, right?
Sure.
And if you look at other great examples, you look at Apple, Think Differently was their whole, model. We were driving on the weekend from picking up our puppy, and Dana and I were going back and forth asking questions and then just Wikipediaing them just for interest's sake, just to have a conversation. We got on Steve Jobs, and anyway, we were reading Steve Jobs' Wikipedia, and just the idea of what Apple tried to do in terms of they wanted to sell products, but the products were an extension of something bigger. And they were the tangible day-to-day application of that bigger idea of, hey, we think differently, we act differently. And that's what we need to create in our practices. And it made me think of when I was listening to the presentation, the Lyceum presentation, it really made me think about, this idea probably at the core of this, and where this leads to is when we're trying to get people focused on the application in practice, meaning, hey, you need to come in, you want to be subluxation free, versus getting them thinking bigger and having that just be the natural deduction for them. We end up getting stuck because for a lot of chiropractors, they end up still focusing on positioning chiropractic as something that you do for people who are sick. And, you remember Ben from the gym. Mm-hmm. Well, you were at the presentation, and I love this idea we came up with. We put up a picture of Ben, and I said, here's Ben, young, healthy, fit, vibrant, alive, and then I said, I want to show you Ben, 6 months later. And people were all thinking I was going to tell this story about how he got cancer and how his life was terrible. And then chiropractic came in and it saved his life. And I said, and here he was 6 months later after being introduced to chiropractic. And I showed the exact same picture. Here's Ben, vibrant, healthy, alive, exact same outcome profile, because chiropractic is not for sick people. Chiropractic is for people. Chiropractic is not for sick people. Chiropractic is for people. Mm-hmm. And until chiropractors get that philosophically, they're always going to struggle with getting people to action the things they want them to action. Because as long as they position chiropractic as for sick people, they're always going to be telling people that chiropractic is for sick people. They're going to attract sick people, and they're not going to understand why people don't do all the other things that we would want them to do, how they would eat, how they would move, how they would think, because they are philosophically flawed, assuming chiropractic is a philosophy, and maybe even worse, assuming chiropractic should be restricted to sick people. Even if it's subluxation care, there's still the assumption that subluxation correction is for people who are sick versus subluxation correction is for people who have subluxations.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so you brought up one point. This is where these things get really, really challenging, right? Is you brought up the one point, chiropractic is for people, but look at all the different mental steps that you have to go through as the practitioner to be able to get here, right? A lot of docs have that, they want to save the day. They like being, that person. You have to give up that role to be the doctor who, wants to take care of people. So that's something that you have to think about.
Well, and to piece this all together, to wrap this up, guys, and we'll put a couple notes in the show notes for you so you can go there. Where this starts to hit the road, we look at how we market our practices. And you can see it. And a lot of people market their practice in this model where chiropractic is for sick people. They assume it's the easiest way. They assume, it's easier to attract people based on, hey, if I have this symptom or this condition, then I'm going to market to that, and they're going to come in and I'm going to treat that condition, or I'm going to replace subluxation for that condition. They don't have a marketing strategy that's an extension of their philosophy. And I think that's an important component is, it's great. You develop this philosophy, this inside out philosophy, you carry it forward, but then it also has to be in what you represent as your brand. And then that has to be put into a larger strategy that has a series of steps and tactics to move people down a funnel and end up in your practice sitting in front of you so you can actually have that conversation and they're actually open to discussing what it is you want to do to help solve the problem that they think they have. And of course, we're going to bridge the gap from this core problem or this collateral damage over to a core problem and get them buying in and have a vested interest in caring about what we want to do to help them move down this path and start to integrate all of these things in their life and actually have a larger change beyond just being subluxation free.
Yeah, also known as very hard work over a long period of time.
Yes, it's called the Life by Design Success Formula. Rinse and repeat. So guys, go to the show notes. We'll put everything we talked about there today. Always a great conversation, Horatio. And if you're catching this on the video feed, do us a favor. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you like seeing our ugly mugs on the video feed. Go ahead and share that if you can, if that's something that's possible on whatever platform this ends up on. And if it is, then it's something that we'll repeat on a consistent basis, and we'll try to bring some better looking people on to the podcast as well. So that way, if you are listening in, you get a mix and match of not just great content, but some good people to look at too. So thank you as always for being a part of the podcast. Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.